Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. And it's nice reviewing a whole bunch of really well-known movies. It also helps me get found in search results a lot easier. But I also like to delve into the realm of not-so-well-known feature films. A good source of interesting things to see can be found in the realm of B-movies, low enough budget that it doesn't have to make hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office to make a profit. This means the filmmakers can focus on their own weird, interesting stories that the mainstream wouldn't ever consider for a major motion picture. Or they can just say, fuck it, I want to make a generic horror movie. And honestly, who doesn't love generic horror movies? I mean, of horror movie fans. Who aren't hipsters. Among them! Who doesn't love B-movies? Low-budget horror monsters picking off the cast of characters one by one, and in the case of some films, pun by pun. But these wasps aren't your normal everyday insectoid assholes. They're monstrosities capable of slaughtering scores of people in graphic and humorous manners. And hell, it even still counts as a newer release, considering this isn't a 80s or 90s flick. This actually came out in 2015. So, let's take a look at Stung and see just how a generic B-movie stacks up in the 21st century. The movie opens with calm, establishing shots of the rural New York countryside, played by Germany. This is to establish the setting, far away from densely populated areas, and smack dab in the middle of some farmland close to nature. Nature, of course, being extremely violent, pointy, and venomous. As we see with this wasp impaling a helpless bee, gestating during the opening credits, and then birthing yet another fully grown wasp. Enough of that, though. We've got to introduce the main players for this film, rolling into town as caterers. Julia, the business owner, played by Jessica Cook, and her subordinate, Paul, played by Matt O'Leary. This isn't Jessica's first movie, of course. You might also recognize her from such roles as stunning bartender, sexy student number one, or attractive girl. And those are cherry-picked examples, of course, but still, that's like half of her movies right there. Character-wise, Paul is just your average guy of uninteresting, unimportant unremarkableness. Kinda like a visual novel protagonist who makes fart jokes. To that end, he's attracted to Julia, but she's far too preoccupied with trying to make sure the family business left in her name actually survives so she can pay the rent.
You know? It's all I know how to do is parties, and if I can't do parties, then what does that say about me?
I mean, it sounds like you were born to party. Yeah.
Master of the beverage tray, lady of the hors d'oeuvres, the rider of the golden pony on the rainbow of carousels. And I gotta stop doing drugs when I write these scripts. Aside from the characters and the setting, of course, the movie also has to establish the various ways in which these people are fucked.
My God, I'm not a child. I know not to use my phone while I work. Why do I have to give it to you?
I don't want the gas to use surgery for signaling like an idiot.
The cellular reception in this remote part of New York is so poor, not even AT&T can save them now! Or they're on some shit like Boost Mobile, and even in downtown Frankfurt, Germany, it's still not gonna get a signal. Don't expect these guys to have internet access either, considering their big, impressive house looks like it hasn't been properly maintained for about 3 decades.
This place is a piece of shit.
Now look on the bright side, it's that much cheaper to rent out and film a horror movie in. As soon as they get around to introducing more characters, it becomes a bit harder for me to understand why the hell Julia is so concerned about making a good impression here, considering the friendly nature between her and Flora, played by Cecilio Pelato. It would seem she's actually known this family for quite a while, so much so that she joins the woman in the kitchen to talk about cock for a while.
He likes you.
I'm pretty sure I'd rather jump off a cliff.
Oh, well, that's too bad, sweetie. Off a cliff got hitched last year to Ina Pidduff Spikes. You just weren't there for him. We still have a while to go before things kick off, though, so the movie spends that time establishing that we have canned fire stuff, as well as even more important characters with Sydney, played by Clifton Collins Jr.
That's my personal stash. So, if you can just keep them cold, then, don't give them out. These cocksuckers are expensive.
Why the hell did you hire a catering company if you're gonna have to provide the food and drinks anyway? The idea is that Sydney here is our introduction to the family that lives here, which consists of himself and his mother, as the celebration is simply a yearly day of remembrance for his late father. We see him as an eccentric to an extreme, sheltered and not happy about living under his mother's rule. This calm is broken, though, when the movie monsters attack! Not gonna lie, I was expecting a slightly more powerful entrance than that. This isn't the beast's final form, though, so Paul just breaks some of the glass and drives it away. Either way, Julia shows up to awkwardly let the audience know they have an ice pick. It may come in handy later. Not yet, though, as Paul has to drive the catering van out back and during this downtime run into yet another character, Cindy's mother, Mrs. Perch, played by Eve Slatner.
You remind me a bit of my late husband. He was very fetching.
You know, a woman can get lonely in her old age. Bring that ass over here. He's saved in the nick of time by the arrival of the party guests and the subsequent setting of the sun in record time. Here we see he escaped the horrors of being hit on by an older woman to being hit on by an attractive older woman, Gwyneth, played by native German actress Florentine Lame.
So how do you know the family?
Oh, we are friends of them. My husband and I.
Your husband?
Almost divorced.
You know, as long as you can get past the ensnare, consume, dispose method of romance she seems to be interested in. Most interestingly, though, one of the guests at this little get-together is Mayor Carruthers, played by none other than Lance Henriksen. That guy's in a lot of low-budget movies. It's like, we need a decent actor, and we don't have a lot of money to spend. Quick, call up Lance! Did he fuck up somewhere in his life and I just don't know about it? Their calm, uneventful evening is interrupted, though, when one of the guests begins suffering from a mysterious ailment.
You're a doctor! Help him! I'm a gynecologist, for Christ's sake!
Yes, but horror movie rules state that even if you just glance at a popular science magazine one time, that means that you must innately know the ins and outs of transdimensional quantum string nanomachines. In this one, though, somehow he can't figure out the guy's problem as he fidgets around making horrible noises. Therefore, the movie just shows them what caused it. I love how Lance is by far the most calm guy in that whole scene. It might be because Henriksen just showed up for a check. It might be because the character's actually cool under pressure, but to me, it just looks like Lance is looking around like, wasps? That's it? Oh, fuck, man. Do you have any idea the kind of shit I had to deal with in the other movies? Also, while Paul said everyone get inside, it seems most people interpreted that as stand in place and flail around like a lunatic. Yeah, there's a lot of wasps, but it's not like they're blocking their way from running. Except somehow they are, and Julia has to huddle under the safety of a tablecloth with Paul, which wouldn't block a Texas mosquito, let alone giant killer wasps. However, we find that being stung by these is far worse than they could imagine. Turns out while these wasps still reproduce by stinging their prey, the new offspring scale to fit the host's size. And they also mature in like 20 seconds, or less. Which we get a pretty good view of as the thing births right in front of Paul here. But have no fear, he is saved in the nick of time, and the maid throws the patio door open to tell our characters, get inside! Somehow not causing a bunch of wasps to come in with them.
Guys, everyone is in the kitchen. Let's go. Come on.
A quick question, what about the 20 other people out there? Are you really just gonna lock the door and leave them to die? Yes? Damn. By everyone in the kitchen, Flora meant all the important characters, who we now get to watch bicker over what the hell just happened.
Bees.
They're not bees. Those are wasps.
Who gives a shit? Bees, wasps.
We spray for wasps, don't we, Sidney?
It was mania.
On the concept of killer wasps attacking helpless partygoers, this was actually based on the writer's own personal experiences working as a caterer at a party where they had a bit of a wasp problem. I'm pretty sure it wasn't actually this bad, but technically speaking, doesn't that mean that this was based on a true story? Like many real-life events, even though Paul told them to call 911 right away, in the chaos, fucking nobody bothered to call 911. Thus, Paul, Julia, and Sydney head out to find the phone and make the call. Problem, of course, the phone line is out because some jackass just crashed into the telephone pole. I guess it really is safer to fly. Now that they've discovered that they are pretty much surrounded by giant killer flying insects with reproductive aspirations, and due to their isolation, it's a given that nobody knows and no help is coming, they decide the best course of action is to wait this one out in the basement, 'cause fuck logic.
We need to get everybody from the kitchen. Together, we need to travel down
Fucking hell, they didn't even get to try the plan before it's already getting fucked up. As surprise, surprise, Mrs. Perch was stung and is now birthing a new wasp monster. This very quickly cuts down the cast of characters to 5 people.
Oh, great. Well, we gotta drag the Mexican around?
I'm from fucking Argentina, hijo de...
Dropping them down to 4 people. The body count as liftoff. So, with so few of them left, let's make bets as who's the next to fall. Considering Julia and Paul are easy to pick out as survivors, or at least Julia, easy to bet they won't die anytime soon. Lance is surviving much better than you would expect, but Sydney here?
Sydney, wait! Come on! Wait for us! Come on!
They're painting him as selfishly as possible, which means if he's not going to die soon, he at least will sometime in this movie. Or it's painting the rest of the cast as incredibly stupid because guess what? He has to unlock the basement door they're trying to get through, and arbitrarily slowing him down means it's taking all of them longer to escape.
Sydney, you gotta open the door. You must open the door! You have to open the fucking door right now!
At this point, if he slips through and locks their asses out, I wouldn't blame him. He actually does let them through though, so yay, they're all safe in the basement. That's good.
Could get my ever-loving mouth, but what the fuck are we supposed to do now? Anybody?
Well, no help is coming. You're surrounded by death, and this isn't exactly a bomb shelter. But, hey, look on the plus side. Most horror movies only run like 90 minutes, so you could probably wait out the running time. Also good they find out this is a wine cellar, and considering the shit they're already in, don't have any qualms about adding alcohol to the mix. It's said that it was Lance's idea that his character were an alcoholic. I'm wondering if it wasn't just that Henriksen figured out that was a way to convince the filmmakers to let him drink on set. Even though the wasps could easily tear through the doors and walls just fine before, and this isn't exactly a fortified bunker, strangely everything calms down and slows down considerably here, allowing the movie to establish some backstory. Turns out Paul here kept cool under pressure because he used to be a lifeguard, but saving a boy's life who died weeks later of pneumonia made him quit, cause fuck, what's the point in saving people if they're just gonna die anyway? Yeah, horror movie logic's usually not quite this bad, but anyway, there's another looming threat. Sydney was stung as well and is harboring a wasp within. A wasp that has taken considerably longer to gestate than all the others in this movie. This is 20 seconds. This one's like 20 minutes, or whenever the hell the plot decides to get around to it. But we need more reasons to hate him, so why not throw some shit together in under a minute to blame him for the wasp problem in the first place?
Mom didn't like the stuff from the garden depot, so I took my dad's leftover growth hormones and I mixed it with the fertilizer.
But monster movies usually have some kind of explanation for the creature, and it's okay to have a little camp here and there. I'm all fine with that, but if you're gonna pull out something this convoluted and unbelievable, just maybe just hint at it a little bit ahead of time so it's not quite so jarring. As off the wall as it is, the rest of the cast strangely takes this as meaning Sydney knew. But how the fuck could he? The point is, I figured they might be able to escape in the catering van, but Paul dropped his keys, so he must head out alone to retrieve them. Ah, an ice pick. Thank God we established this earlier, otherwise it might have looked crazy compared to that level-headed giant fertilizer wasp monsters. While Paul is outside securing the keys and fighting valiantly against giant wasps with his +1 ice pick of vermin slaying, Sydney is busy birthing a new wasp monster down in the basement with Julia and Henriksen. Don't look for logical consistency with any of this though, because it's an opportunity to introduce even more rules for the horror monster. The giant wasp within him is a tiny giant wasp, and only partially births out of him, leaving him as a wasp-controlled human, which is far less powerful than just a straight wasp, but scary. And he's also the only example of this ever happening to anyone for the entire movie. Worry not, though, Paul swoops in just in time to save the day. Knocking a shelf over, this incapacitates Sydney long enough for him to establish he has the keys, and they can escape. Into the building, because out the window they was just using a second ago would be too hard. Besides, out there is the lawn where they might run into wasps. They don't want that.
Alright, let's get it go.
Except, of course, for the fact that the building is also loaded with wasps. Swarming, if you will. So they have to tread carefully, slowly slinking around each corridor, trying not to make too much noise. This does show off the setting quite well, and I should mention that while not mind-blowing, the effects at work are at least admirable considering the low budget. Either way, they eventually come to a bottleneck, where only a dark hole provides passage.
Alcohol.
Fucking wasps were like, oh hell yes you will! This means it's just Paul and Julia left to survive the wasp onslaught. Therefore, after running for their lives, they barricade themselves in a room with windows they just can't figure out how to break. Oh well, this is a good enough excuse for them to chat some more and work on that whole relationship thing they might have if they survive.
Do you like making out?
If not, it's okay. I'll settle for a rim job. Before they can get much further, the wasps suddenly remember thin wooden doors never stopped them before and continue to torment the new couple, which results in more wasp-on-human action, switching between CGI and puppets depending on the shot and budget restrictions. At the end of it all, they escape that one attacking wasp and quickly find their way outside, or really slowly find their way outside as the time it took them to leave the room full of windows and re-enter the hallway. Not only did the sun come up, but it looks like it almost is goddamn midday. All that's left to do is reach the car. Obviously, this means they face certain complications. Don't worry though, that wasn't an infectious stab, just an impaling stab. It's totally different. This means while Julia gets away, Paul winds up blacking out, only to wake up back inside the house, in the hive itself. Seems Mrs. Perchbirth not only into a wasp, but a queen wasp, and is now controller of her son via his mini-wasp thing. Some things never change. Like how Mrs. Perch still wants to use Paul for reproduction, but not by the normal stabbing method of injecting larva. No, they want to force a larva down his throat in a much less efficient manner. Pretty much nothing here about how the wasps work is consistent with the rest of the movie, so fuck it. It doesn't matter anyway when Julia shows up with a goddamn hedge trimmer and tears Sydney like there's a motherfucking chainsaw! Now to subdue the rest of the hive. Back off! Which bears a striking resemblance to how Ripley rescued Newt from the alien queen. I mean, except with less military equipment and more gardening tools. With their hostage larva in hand, the pair managed to escape from the house quite a lot faster than all those other attempts they made all movie. Also, in true asshole hero fashion, they break a gas line and throw those handy-dandy flaming cans right before they escape, killing the larva first. The escape doesn't go completely smoothly, though, as one of the flaming wasps catches up to them, latches onto the car, and just refuses to die. However, Paul has a plan. He will sacrifice himself to take out the final wasp and save Julia! I appreciate your solidarity with him, but it's not really gonna help having you in the car with him for this. You're just both gonna die. That's the only thing that's gonna do. So they Thelma and Louise this shit, slamming the van with a wasp into a nearby tree. However, this is not the end. They actually survived it, because why the hell not? Therefore, happy ending! The police arrive to calmly take care of things here for them, and they can finally have their kiss. Or just start fucking right there in the back of the ambulance.
Okay, sir, we are gonna get out.
You know, every time I had sex like that in front of the police, they always seemed to think it was a little more illegal than that. Anyway, I'm not so used to horror movies ending on such a happy note.
What do you make of this?
The giant wasp bred with bovine to make even gianter giant wasps. Works for me. Anyway, that was Stung, and it's a horror movie. There's nothing terrible here, but at the same time, nothing about this movie really stands up above the pack. I'm pretty sure that the creators set out to make a decent horror movie, though, not an allegory on the dark side of philosophical discourse. So in that sense, it did a good job. While it is at its heart a basic low-budget horror flick, it does do that better than most. For instance, the special effects at work here are admirable. Nothing is amazing, but the CGI wasps are used when CGI would look better than the puppets, and they look decent. The puppets are used for close-up shots or parts where the bugs interact with other people, and they look decent. Again, nothing is jaw-droppingly amazing about them, but there's never a point where the things just look bad, and that does show the filmmakers at least gave a damn. The characters, likewise, are nothing to get all that excited about. Paul and Julia are generic enough, but Paul has some backstory revealed over the course of the flick, and Julia does grow as a character. Lance gives an okay performance, even if it kind of feels like he just showed up for his check, and the character with the most character to him, Sydney, is not nearly as interesting to me as I think the movie is trying to make him out to be. Even transforming from man, half wasp, he was just as weird and just as much of a mama's boy that even that didn't feel like that much of a change. Overall, Stung is an okay horror film for fans of the genre. The setups are familiar, the payoffs are relatively predictable, and the twists don't stray that far from the beaten path. However, the admirable use of the budget for the setting and effects are respectable, and I think it earns a solid 3 conveniently established pointy sticks out of 5. And if you don't like horror, you really won't like this movie, but then again, who makes horror for people who don't like horror? Anyway, thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado, and remember, Waspinator is tired of all your shit!
I'm for fucking Argentina, hijo de...